Okay, Geek, so if you're coming to Laos for the very first time, especially if you're here in Vientiane, one thing that you might notice is, well, there's a lot of Chinese people here. There's a large Chinese population that's constantly growing. So right now I am in an area where there are a lot of Chinese, so I'll just flip it around. And here it is. This is in the Sanjing area, if I'm saying that correctly. So as you can see, there's Laotian characters, but there's also Chinese characters as well. So this entire area is heavily Chinese. There's a lot of Chinese businesses here, obviously a lot of Chinese people and Laotian people. They're just kind of all combined together. And this is something that I did find really surprising. And there's Chinese people practically everywhere around the world, but especially here in Southeast Asia, it's highly concentrated, especially in places like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand to some extent. But in this case, there are a lot of Chinese businesses, Chinese people, and there are a lot of people who actually live here now, but there's also a lot of visitors coming from mainland China. And so a lot of these businesses, hotels, establishments are actually set up for those people coming to China. As you can see, there's a lot of development here. There's constantly things being built. There's a lot of new people coming here all the time, and all of it is built for the Chinese population. So that's something that is pretty awesome, and that is, I would say, really amazing that they're able to build this fast. But there's also a negative to it as well. And the negative is, well, when you have an influx of a different culture and they're pretty much taking over everything here because they have the resources, they have the money, and they have the population, well, it actually, I would say in a lot of ways, hurts the indigenous population here. A lot of the Laotians here kind of feel like they don't have a choice. So, you know, you either adopt the new culture that's coming here, or it's going to be hard for you to survive. Laos is a very small country. The entire country has about 8 million people. So that is like maybe a small town in China. You know, there's billions of people in China. And as you see here, it's just filled with a bunch of Chinese businesses, Chinese residents, and you know, this is much bigger than I would think, but there's multiple areas here in Laos that's like this, and it's continually growing. And a lot of how they talk about this is basically a partnership between Laos and China. But at the end of the day, you know, this is the reality. You know, when you're in a country that's not quite as developed, then you're gonna have investors come in this case China, that has the money and resources to really change a lot of things. So yeah, there's gonna be pros and cons to everything, but for everybody else, I think this is something that might be surprising, but after a while, you kind of get used to it. You know, you kind of get used to seeing this, and it's not just in the larger cities like Vientiane, which is the largest city, which is the capital of Laos, but it's also in other places like Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng. There's just a lot of it right here. And as you're walking around, it's primarily like concentrated in certain areas. Like over here, there is a Chinese market over here and Thai market, but it's also kind of like spread out in different parts of the city and different areas of Laos. So I'm gonna go ahead and check out the Sanjing market over there. There's also a grand hotel, and as you can see, it's kind of like all around you here. So I'm gonna head across the street to the Sanjing market here in Vientiane, Laos. So trying not to get hit by cars. And so if you've never been here, this is an area that's heavily Chinese. You know, most of the people coming here, they're coming here to travel and visit, but obviously there are Chinese people who live here and Chinese Laotian people. And so this is primarily built for that community. And as you can see here, there's like Chinese characters everywhere, basically. So this is basically a market area, a retail area, and also a residential area. So just kind of think like a place where it has everything that you need. And I think for anybody who's lived in bigger cities, you've probably experienced this before, where you live somewhere where it has everything you need and you really don't need to go anywhere. That's kind of what they have right here. And this area really has grown a lot in the past 10 years. And I would say at some point, this is gonna be the majority of what's here in Vientiane, Laos. And it's not cheap to live here, to be honest with you. Most places in Laos, you're probably looking at anywhere from $150 to $200 to $300 a month for rent, whereas over here it's probably going to be in the 500 plus range, especially if you want to live in the newer condos and areas like that. So it's going to be very expensive. So whenever I first came here, I was like, wow, am I in Laos or am I in China? Because there's a lot of Chinese businesses and residents here. And some really good food. I mean, I love Chinese food, so it's definitely a plus for me. And as you come here, you see more and more of it. So this is more of the restaurant side. And then as you get over here, there are electronics, retail. So over here, you see this, and a lot of development. So as you can see here. And whenever I first came here, my cousin took me here, and I was really surprised actually about what I saw. I mean, there's basically a Chinatown or Chinese community in every country I've ever been to, but this one is pretty, pretty populated, pretty dense, pretty heavy when it comes to Laos. So here's some of the businesses here. And then as you go through here, there's going to be the market area, and you're going to see more of the residential areas, just like if people who want to live here. And like I said, it's a lot more expensive than most places in Laos. So as you can see here, there's more businesses over here, there's residential up there, there's some more in the back. And this is a pretty large area. I'm not really sure what the square footage or square meters are, but there's a lot. And as I'm walking through here, most of what you see here is very new. I mean, most of these places are probably built within the last 5 years. So you see here, check this out. And they have all types of businesses and services that are available. And most of these places for like hotels, condos, or apartments, they're not filled up yet. Okay, so these that are still in development or had just got done, they're just trying to fill these places up. And so most of the residents that are going to be living here or are already living here, they are Chinese, you know. Whether they're mainland Chinese who just are visiting or staying here for, as you know, another place to stay, you know, between China and Laos, or they're actually Chinese Laotians, you know, they actually decided to live here. Because for the majority of Laotians, they honestly cannot afford to live in places like this. The average salary for Laotians here is typically around $150 to probably $300 a month, and that is really low whenever you compare that to US salary. And so for them to be able to afford these condos, which could be like $500 or more, it's simply not attainable for most Laotians. And so as I come back here, I'm going to see that there's more retail here, more development, you can see there. And you do have to always be careful of the traffic. There's constantly motorcycles everywhere. And there's been a few times where I've nearly got hit by a motorcycle or a car, even when I was trying to be careful and pay attention to things. So here's some more here. There are a lot. I mean, I'd probably say there's 200 to 300 businesses, maybe more. I'm not sure, but there's a lot. And this is a very large area. So as I'm coming through here, I really honestly don't feel like I'm in Laos. I really feel like I'm in China. With a smaller population, of course. So as I come down here, see what we have down here. And I've been here multiple times, but I haven't seen everything. And this area keeps expanding. So it's continually growing. There's always new businesses popping up, more residents coming in. Now for the local Laotians who are able to conduct business in this area, it is good money for them, to be honest with you, because in general, the Chinese visitors, they have a lot more money and obviously a larger population. And so for Laotians, local residents who are able to conduct business with Chinese, they actually make more money. So that is the reality of things there. It's kind of like the back end. And then I'm going to show you some newer developments that are being built and are constantly being built. Okay, so as you can see right here, this area is flat because it's got knocked down, and they're basically going to build, I'm pretty sure, some condos here or hotels or apartments, just like they are over there. Now, I can't read Chinese, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to be cheap at all. As I mentioned, probably going to be over $500 US a month to stay here. So up there we actually have a food market. And man, look at this. And I'll tell you, in terms of like the speed of construction and development, it is really, really fast. I mean, me living in the United States with all the modern amenities that they have, it is really slow compared to what they are able to do here. I see like entire buildings being built in 6 months and sometimes even less, from a flat surface like this to something like this. Now, obviously there's different regulations and laws and money that goes into place, so that might explain a lot of things. So I'm gonna go through the market over here. So today is a Monday afternoon, so there's not quite as many people, but normally this place is packed. So this is a much smaller food market over here, and most of the businesses here are actually owned by local Laotians, but obviously there's some that's owned by Chinese. And the vast majority of people who conduct business in this area, they are bilingual, so they speak both Laotian and Chinese. So if you have that ability, you have that skill to actually speak multiple language, and if you could also speak English at the same time, then you could make a really, really good living. That's very valuable. Unfortunately for me, my Laos is okay, but I can't read and write, and I can't speak Chinese at all. So that's a no-go for me in terms of career choices. So as you can see here, this is a small market area. And here we have another side of this market or this community. Man, there's a lot here. I mean, and whenever I was looking at it from the outside, it just looks like a corner of a street. But then when I came in, it was absolutely massive, you know, and it's really deep, you know, so there's just a lot here. And like I said, about 10 years ago, most of this was not here. It's completely dirt or old communities and buildings which were flattened. And typically as I walk through this, I could hear more people speaking Chinese versus Laotian. So it kind of tells you, like, you know, who the majority of people who live in this community. And yeah, it is pretty fascinating, but also, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of frightening as well for local Laotians. It's just really, really challenging, you know, for you to try to make it when the competition has way more resources and population than you do. So that is just the reality of things. And for people who can take advantage of that, then that's great. There's also some Chinese clothing brands there as well. Over here. And I'm coming back to the front of the area for me. Yeah, so hopefully you kind of get a sense for the scale. And like I said, this is just one area of the Chinese community, but I feel this one is the largest, and it's the one that is the fastest developing. Every time I come through here, there's always something new. So here I'm going back to the front, going back to the main streets. And it's definitely a different experience. And honestly, it feels so different from even Chinatown and places like the United States. It just feels so different. Because at least in those cases, I kind of feel like you're in a small area of, you know, a Chinese community. Whereas here, I kind of feel like you are in China, you know. That's the way I feel about this area, which is a completely different feel. So a lot of traffic, I mean, just a whole bunch of traffic. So that's something that it's still hard to get used to, especially if you're not used to living in a big crowded city. Okay, and then there's some security up here. And there's a little bit more down there, more food over there. And let's go ahead and check this out. Man, I feel like I spent about 30 minutes walking in this area, just walking, and I won't even cover everything that's here. Wow. And honestly, I wish I could speak Chinese, or at least read and write in Chinese, because there's just a whole bunch of countries where there are just a lot of Chinese people, and so I think it would be a huge benefit if you're able to at least, you know, understand and speak some Chinese, mostly Mandarin. And I'll probably try to learn some of that, especially if I'm going to be coming here more often. And if you want to do any type of business and commerce, or even get a job, you know, it is a serious advantage if you are able to speak the Chinese language, and especially read and write. So yeah, I think that's it. It doesn't go back out into the main road, so yeah, that's what I have here for the Sanjing market. I'm gonna go ahead and go back out to the main road. Okay, so that is the Sanjing area here in Vientiane. This is basically the Chinatown, or one of the Chinese communities, because as I said, it's kind of spread out all over, not only Vientiane, but also Laos in general. And so you can also see the sign up here. It says Sanjing International Market. It's also near the Sanjing Grand Hotel. And as you come out here, you're gonna go back to the main street. But yeah, that was a really, really different experience, especially if you've never been here before and you're wondering what places can I come see in Vientiane, Laos, and this is one of them. So yeah, if you actually had any thoughts on this or any other areas in Vientiane, Laos that you've enjoyed visiting, be sure to leave in the comments there below, and I'll see you on another episode.